Jennifer McKay, Policy Director at Tip of the Mitt Watershed Council.
So first, you were very brave and outspoken in saying you were not happy with something that the governor of the state of Michigan did. Can you kind of start off with that at this PSA meeting here in Lansing?
Sure. Well, the governor, as everyone knows, signed an agreement with Enbridge, and the way in which it was done was frustrating, to say the least. It was essentially bypassed a process that he had set up. The advisory board had been developed 2 years ago to provide advice and recommendations on pipeline safety, in public engagement, transparency, and emergency response. And he signed an agreement that addressed all of these, but he did so without the knowledge and input of the Pipeline Advisory Board.
And you said also he was also, I mean, many people also added in, because you had several supporters, that it was also saying that they weren't listening to the public. Am I right?
I agree. I think it completely discounted the public's voice. So we're in the middle of a public comment period, but yet the agreement came out just prior to these public meetings that we're having this week, actually. And so it gave the impression that the public's voice is meaningless and worthless. And so I got phone calls in my office from many members asking if they should even comment, if they should attend the meetings, and that is unacceptable for the public to feel that their voice is not being considered by the state of Michigan and the governor.
So you just sort of said that, and was any action coming out of that? You just wanted to express your displeasure with this, and you were joined by other board members as well.
I feel like the state needs to know how not only the public feels, but how the Pipeline Safety Advisory Board members felt about the agreement being made. We have future agreements that are likely to come, and hopefully this can be a lesson learned on how not to do it in the future.
Then you did something else very brave as well. You started off making it clear that you wanted a resolution put out there to, let's have you explain, shut down Line 5 temporarily. Am I right?
Correct. So we obviously know that there are a number of coding issues with Line 5, and we have bare steel, and it's not going to be able to be addressed until next spring. And so at this point in time, we felt that Line 5 should be temporarily shut down until the entire pipeline can be inspected and the coding issues can be fully repaired. And so we made the resolution, and it passed.
And can you explain so everyone understands? Because I was tweeting out about the abstentions and the yeses and the no, and like it was very confusing. So could you tell us what happened?
So it was a bit confusing because the state agencies will all abstain, and then we had a number of other Pipeline Advisory Board members abstain, and then we had 1 no and 5 yeses. So in actuality, we had more abstentions than yeses. However, abstentions are considered basically null and void. So in the end, we had more yeses than noes. So the resolution will carry and now go forth to the governor for consideration.
Can you talk about the other motions that passed? The resolutions.
Sure. We had 2 other resolutions. One will address the definition of sustained adverse weather conditions. So currently in the agreement, it's basically wave height of 8 feet or more for basically an hour continuously, and that is not consistent with the current emergency response equipment that Enbridge has. So we basically looked at the specs for Enbridge's equipment and determined it was 3.3 feet, at which their current equipment was effective at oil spill containment and recovery. So we made the resolution that it should be a wave height of 3 feet. And then in addition, also look at a study to do criteria for maritime conditions. So not just wave height, but wind and ice cover and currents and all the other factors that can either prevent or inhibit, exasperate spilled oil in the straits.
And that passed also in a weird way.
Similarly, there were more abstentions than yes votes, but again, more yeses than noes. So it again carried and will go to the governor for his consideration. And then the last one is to address deficiencies in the alternatives analysis. Some of the gaps that weren't addressed, most notably looking at what is the public need of Line 5 in Michigan, and how can we look at other alternatives to service those needs for Michigan, particularly looking at alternative infrastructure and multimodal transportation, but specifically, how can we effectively serve Michigan needs?
What else can you say about this meeting today and what happens next for Line 5? I mean, there are times, some people are saying how it's a little bit, even though you guys passed 3 major motions today, that hasn't happened at other pipelines and boards. But some people say there's a Groundhog Day feeling and that the public comes out here and says what they say and you guys say what you do, but you're just an advisory board. And maybe you could just talk about, do you feel there's an impact from today and where do things go from here?
We shall see. So we are only advisory in nature, so the resolutions have to go to the governor for consideration, and just because they pass, that doesn't mean necessarily the recommendations will be followed. Hopefully, he will take them and actually implement them, amend the agreement, have the state start another study to actually get all the data we need to make a final decision on the future of Line 5, but that remains to be seen.
It is possible that the governor could choose to temporarily shut down the pipeline until the protective coating is repaired. Is that possible?
It is possible. The resolution should be going to him very soon.